Bird Gang? What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil from Jack Doom 2. Have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Well, fun fact, here we are to do a breakdown / live reaction review and analysis of number 229 of Symbolism, which is known as Nightjar and Asa. Okay, I don't know. I'm still very, I'm not gonna say the last chapter took a sledgehammer to my ankles, and, not in the best of ways, but it did still feel weird. But there are a couple things. The main thing that could hypothetically save last chapter, at least for the whole, very abruptly, I would say, ending the fight between Denji, Denji and Yoru, specifically in a way that felt a little bit random and contrived, and not in any sort of Denji has crazy battle IQ way, in the same way that the Makima versus Denji fight ended, but rather, I guess Denji's just, a real lucky guy kind of way. That, you could argue some fights in Chainsaw Man have ended before, but especially for seemingly the battle between our major antagonist and our wait a second. Oh, wait, no, never mind, that's fine. But essentially the battle between our main antagonist and our titular character, the way Makima versus Denji ended, and the way that Yoru versus Denji ended, just feels really, really different. However, there are a couple things. Number one, a lot of people are assuming that Dove, seemingly that appeared at the end when Denji essentially hurled it up, is actually Lil D, right? For all intents and purposes, that should be. Mainly because of how the chapter ends with Yoru talking about how Asa didn't like when things were slain. And obviously things can only be slain if Lil D exists. So, presumably that Dove is Lil D's super weakened form. We know how Yoru started off the narrative as a bird. Same thing, it could be that when Lil D was devoured, they were massively weakened by being in Chainsaw Man's belly and they came out as a dove. It still is very coincidental that he threw that up. We've seen the way that Chainsaw Man's whole consumption thing works. He will throw up the last thing that he ate. But at the same time, we also have seen technically that he is able to at least throw up specific things, or at least Pochito was able to do that, as he threw up very specific D's. Seemingly, it didn't seem that he threw up things in certain orders. But I'm not even sure about that. I need to reread the aging arc. But with that being the case, I don't know, man. It still feels like a lot. It feels like a lot. But a lot, and not in the best of ways. But if it is Lil D, seemingly it has to be Lil D, considering, the idea of slaying things has come back into the picture when they completely forgot about that into that fight. So let's take a look. I'm very interested. Chapter 229, Nightjar and Asa. There's a lot of work to do because I'm a little. I don't want to say this. If that is the end. If that is the end of Denji versus Yoru, how do I feel about it as a whole? But I want to just say it's fine. And not even the sense that, I don't want to say it's fine as in, I don't want to say it's good. But I don't want to say it's bad either. But, fine just sounds so, it sounds so blasé. I wouldn't say the end of, I wouldn't even say the battle between Makima and Denji / Pochita, because this is essentially a runback, right? Obviously, Denji Man is an evolved version of Denji, and infused with Pochita, showing development from the end of part 1. But, there's nothing in the Makima versus Denji battle where I'm like, oh, that's fine. No, that was straight gas, start to finish. Meanwhile, Denji versus Yoru, it's had its ups and its downs. A couple different downs and sideways and tangents, but I don't know, man. Let's see. Interesting. Two birds flying away. I don't know who's laughing. Is this Denji laughing? I don't know. We'll go with Denji. I would hit that meme face, but my tongue is simply not long enough. But let's see. Oh, never mind. That was your. All right. Interesting. Two birds. I guess this is meant to be. Oh, and that's cool. So, interesting. So, I guess it makes sense. The La Bomba Nuclear punch from all those chapters ago didn't actually destroy all the doors to the end of the world. A good chunk of the doors to the end of the world are still there. That's what we're currently seeing, and we're seeing two birds fly off. Okay, let's see. Okay, Yoru. Calm the little far. Let's see. Because I hate it? Why? You don't care at all about my feelings. Their whole situation is very weird. Notably, she is similar to Denji in the sense of, while she is bonded with a very powerful D, but, notably, Pochita, while definitely having connections to Denji's mind, his memories, we've seen that Pochita was even, there in Denji's mind in part 1, being hey, Brody, don't open that door. Whatever you do. Knowing how much of an effect that had on Denji, he was don't open that door. And obviously we had the part 2 incident, once again, going back to the thing that I don't remember if Pochita, like, throws up things in order or not. I don't know, my brain is kind of fuzzy on that because I need to reread. But we even had that, where Pochita, having such an extensive knowledge of Denji's, like, emotions and feelings about certain things and certain concepts linked to certain memories for Denji, he ate certain things and then threw up certain things to help Denji develop as a character, right? So obviously, Pochita is intelligent enough to at least have direct connections and manipulation of Denji's mind, but still, physically, he's Denji's heart. Pochita and Denji feel different things differently, right? Like, they are still essentially two separate people working together rather than being directly fused together. But in the case of Asa and Yoru, they literally, in many ways, are the same person, right? Because Yoru, if I remember correctly, replaced the piece of Asa's destroyed brain, essentially. So she doesn't care about your feelings. Actually, unironically, quite the opposite. It was your feelings that allowed her weapons to be so powerful, unique, and diverse before this fight, of course. Then she kind of got watered down because she stopped caring about stuff and took full control. So, I don't know. Let's see. You don't care at all about my feelings. You were just being like, I am actually low-key perishing right now. Huh. Well, I suppose that was. So, yeah, I guess that has to be Lil D. Huh. I mean, that works. I guess my only thing is, like, where are... Well, the thing is, they were tiny. They were tiny. The other, like, the little puppets that he devoured afterwards, they were relatively small. Obviously, he did eat, like, a few of Yoru's friends, but still, maybe it makes sense that the dove comes up. And going with the idea, and this is once again a correct me if I'm wrong thing, maybe Pochita has the ability to choose what he throws up. I don't remember the context. it's been long enough. I don't remember if Denji / Pochita / Denji Man can choose what they throw up, and specifically how that will affect things. It's not a weird choice for Denji. Like, here's the thing, right? No matter what, it is kind of like a weird 50-50, like, okay, I guess we just need to end this somehow kind of choice. Because, like, if we go with the idea that Denji should throw up things in a set order, or Pochita / Denji / Denji Man should throw up things in a set order, then the last thing he consumed, as far as I'm aware, wasn't Lil D. It was some of Yoru's friends, which should have come up first. But that obviously didn't happen here. And if it's random, man, boy, is that lucky. That he got that one in that moment, and it just happened to specifically tie to, like, Asa's traumatic experience with bird, like, creatures in the past. Like, I don't know. It is very... It's a bit more... I don't know, man. I don't want to say it's, like... But I guess contrived is the word. It's more contrived than the defeat of Makima. If this truly, like, it depends. If this truly is the end of Yoru, right? If the battle's truly over. And that's what a lot of y'all, at least in terms of the last poll, were, like, also kind of 50-50 on with me. Like, is this actually it? Is this another one of those, like, weird intermissions, kind of like the appearance of Locust? I don't know. Let's see. Asa? Anything else as your other seemingly perishes? Let's see. Why? Why are you still leaving me alive? You could have erased me and made my body and mind all yours, right? Oh. Well, I mean, I suppose at her level of power, if she could seal her away forever, she might as well have been able to lead her. But, like, still, the whole idea of, well, she does technically need emotions too. You know, so, then again, though, we know D's can have emotions, at least seemingly enough. Pochita. Like, Pochita clearly has emotions than D's a D. So, I don't know. It may genuinely be a mix of you are still the same person, so erasing you would still be like erasing a piece of Yoru that she's now, like, intrinsically tied to. And also, it could just be the logistical side of things. You still have emotional connections with the world. Yoru may not. So, or not, may not have any at all. And she still, like, thinks, oh, well, it's probably better to have you around at least a little bit. So you can take the fleeting emotions you have connected to these certain ideas and tack them on to something else. Let's see. Okay. Oh, Denji's revving, let's see. Denji? Denji? Brother? I think you need to, well, you know what, though? I guess the question has kind of, like, lingered over the narrative, especially since Denji became Denji Man and wasn't just Pochita fighting Yoru. But, like, what is Denji's plan to save Yoru? Or to save Asa from Yoru, essentially, right? Because, like, ultimately, the one thing that works with Makima that technically doesn't work with Asa and Yoru is that Makima was just an antagonist that needed to be struck down. Right? Like, the complications of Yoru and Asa is that they are two people in the same body. One, a massive destroyer of worlds, or in this case, world. presumably she wanted to destroy the underworld too. But, like, that's what Yoru is, but Asa is still directly, intrinsically tied to Yoru, and is only alive because of Yoru, right? Like, for all intents and purposes, I see people occasionally forget this. Asa, like she died at the start of part 2. She was gone. It was Yoru essentially giving her that second chance to live. So I've kind of had no idea how Denji was going to reconcile that. Like, obviously he didn't know. It's kind of like my whole issue with, like, Denji throwing him a bird and the bird being the perfect thing for Yoru to decide to throw herself out of the way of. Like, at least it's implied to me that Denji threw up anything else, Yoru would have just trampled over him. But he threw up specifically the bird, the dove, which seems to either maybe be or could flat out be little D. Like, it was a lot of perfect timing at the perfect moment, because considering he wouldn't know anything about that. Or at least I don't think. Once again, I need to reread part 2. But I don't think you would know anything about the whole Asa's specific emotional guilt and tied the birds. I know they, like, shared a mental realm for a little bit, but notably the mental realm combo they had when Denji was still little and when he grew up into high school Denji, that was all about Asa's guilt about her father. And, like, a random D. It wasn't very specifically about Clucky or any of the bird things. But I do wonder how Denji's going to now take this opportunity, now that he sees Yoru incapacitated, to, you know, maybe, I don't know, cut out that piece of Asa's, like, would that negate Yoru's contract? Or would it, like, would harming Yoru now trigger the contract she has with that state of that nation, where ultimately she would get rest because now external damage is being applied to her? I don't know. Let's see. Poor Denji, man. Like, you need, speaking of people who need juice, you need juice, brother. Let's see. Bzz. Okay. He's gonna try to cut her. I mean, it's gonna be crazy to see him try to cut her brain open. Let's see. Oh, okay, never mind. We're going into a bit of monologue. Let's see. That bird whose body I stole at the... Oh, so that wasn't her weekend. So, wait, that was a vessel? Okay, then wait, now I'm more confused. Wait, huh? I don't know what, I thought, I think that may have just been a mess. I didn't realize, okay. So the bird, so wait. What is Yoru's original form, then? I'm gonna... Hold on. Wait a second. I thought the original form was the bird. Let me see. Yoru Chainsaw Man. No, what is your base form like? Yeah. It's just like, when I go to the wiki, I don't want to scroll too far just in case I accidentally spoil myself for the chapter, but, like, it just looks like the bird. I thought the bird was her base. Is it just the eyes? How'd you manifest that? How'd you manifest into the bird? Hold on. I'm gonna scroll a little bit. Let me see. Let me go to history. Am I tweaking? Nightjar Fiend. Oh, wait. Hold on. Nightjar Fiend. Following the battle with the 4 horsemen and weapon D's, Yoru was reduced to a near-death state due to Pachita consuming most of her body. In the state, she claimed the body of a nightjar bird, with its form changing to a dark-colored owl or putu appearance with a piercing gaze. While the bird is similar to Pachita's dog form, her true form is still unknown. Its recognizable ringed horseman's eyes are also present. Okay, so we just don't know what Yoru's true form is. Huh, we never saw it. Okay, interesting. And that was a form she assumed right after the battle of Pochita. Oh, I always thought it... Man, I need to reread. the lack of... I'm running into the Sakamoto's issue all over again, dog, where, like, man, a lot of these would be solved if I had just reread Chainsaw Man. I need a whole reread of Chainsaw Man. I've only read through Chainsaw Man once, but, like, actually, no, I have read... That's the sad thing. Just like Sakamoto's, I've read through Chainsaw Man again before, but I need to reread again, like, take notes or something, because I completely forgot that we technically have never seen a true form. She took over. So, okay, Nightjar Bird and Asa. All right, so Nightjar, essentially Yoru's original form, even that's not her true form, now that I know that. And Asa, essentially the relationship between Yoru and Asa. That's what this chapter's about. Well, listen. That bird whose body I stole at the outset, even though it was a bird, it felt guilty for catching and eating worms. For an act necessary for survival. What a stupid, arrogant, and foolish bird. That's always interesting, right? And there is, and it's very interesting for us. I found it funny that a bird would think that, at least in the context of the Chainsaw Man universe, but still it could also be true for ours. But notably, that's why a lot of people are vegetarian or vegan. They don't like the idea of consuming other living things, even if the quote-unquote level of sentience of those living things is lower than humans, right? Obviously, though, if we were carnivores, we wouldn't have a choice, right? Like, we can't... But that's the difference, right? We aren't carnivores. We are omnivores who can survive exclusively on plants, right? Like, that does make us unique. Though I think like, the difference between herbivore and carnivore is, like, very, very, like, wishy-washy and slidey in many cases, but specifically for us, we are omnivores. We can survive off literally anything as long as it has some sort of sustenance. So that's why a lot of people who feel very strongly about the lives and the value of lives of other living things don't eat anything but plants. Of course, though, like my as a person, as a unbelievably deep into the sauce, like I've literally devoured many things of many different varieties as a meat muncher, essentially. My argument, not necessarily against that, but my explanation for why I haven't like fully gone down the, oh no, I'm eating other living things and that's bad, is the idea of like everything's alive. You cannot consume something that hasn't lived and live yourself, right? Like ultimately, that plant you cut down to eat still would have liked to live, right? Whether it be lettuce, whether it be tomato, like it still would have liked to exist on its own. It didn't be created to be eaten by you, or at least that's not what its life's well, its life's purpose is that, but in the same way that livestock's life purpose is that. Plants, like all living things, just want to live, even if they don't have the same want that we do. In the same way that certain animals all want to live, but just don't have the same want that we do in terms of like levels of intelligence and stuff like that. So it is very interesting, the idea that Yoru finds this bird that felt guilty about the nature of its existence. Not just foolish, but arrogant, right? The idea that you can sort of, you should feel bad about something that is inherent to your nature. And I suppose that's a big thing that part 2 has been about, right? Like, what is the true nature of basically all the characters involved? What is the true nature of Denji? What is the true nature of Asa? Especially now with the whole point of Yoru's character development as an individual. What is the point in the base of Yoru's nature? And in this case, we are seeing a contradiction, right? Where Yoru is out here calling the bird arrogant, foolish, and stupid, and yada yada yada, but she's technically the same right now. Obviously, she was the Nightjar bird for a little bit, but a necessary act for her survival is realistically defeating Denji permanently and properly. But because of the emotions that Asa feels, she threw herself off the bike, and then gave herself essentially this lethal wound, seemingly. So, she is now the same as the bird she once possessed as nothing more than a vessel. She has now, once again, crossed that threshold. In terms of Chainsaw Man being a story of, hey, who are you and what are you? And are you defined by what you are from birth? In the case of Yoru, she's not. She may have, at the start of the narrative, once been a D with a single-minded focusing goal. But now it's clear that this much time with Asa, this much time with Denji, this much time in the human world as a person who's at least partially human, it's, quote-unquote, corrupted Yoru into something like this. And that's very interesting to see. Once again, even if I will say the battle between her and Denji didn't hit as hard as the battle between Makima versus Denji, I'll say in terms of the character work, as much as I do love Makima as a character, I do think she also has her layers and complexities, and I think she's a well-written and fantastic major antagonist. I think in terms of overall writing, and specifically the development and journey that we see Yoru go on, she low-key smacks Makima, and I do like that. Let's see. Arrogant bird. Up, and Denji's getting closer. He does have one good arm. Like, he may be able to, like, Denji performing brain surgery? I don't know. It really depends on how much of, like, Yoru's physiology that Denji, or that Asa keeps, if the piece of Yoru in Asa's brain gets cut out. I don't know. Let's see. If I empathize. I love how she's still monologuing to Asa, who Denji can't even see. Let's see. If I'm able to bear that guilt, too, then I can create stronger weapons. I tried to understand your guilt, Asa, but in the end, I couldn't comprehend it. Well, and that once again goes to the idea of, like, the line. Like, where does Asa end and Yoru begin, and vice versa? Where does Yoru end and Asa begin? Technically, I think by the act of last chapter, right? No matter how contrived or not it may be, that was Yoru understanding and embracing Asa's guilt. So, like, this is, like, dare I say, Yoru should, like, wiggle her fingers and gaslight me, but, like, Yoru, you did understand it. In fact, we've seen through the stronger weapons you made manifest that, yeah, like, you've been able to link with Asa. Your beings have fundamentally merged, but maybe she means, like, like, being able to feel something and be able to understand what you're feeling are two different things, I would say, right? Like, I can describe to you the chemical processes that go on in my brain when I eat something I like the dopamine receptors flood and this, that, and the third, and I do a little jig. But in terms of, like, comprehending that emotion fully. I can't really say that I do. It lasts for a bit, it fades. Same thing with like anything. Like I can feel it, but I cannot understand it. And maybe that's what Yoru means here. Where like even if she can literally feel certain things, or is directly tied to certain things, like certain emotions, she still doesn't get it. And that could be, once again, because of her nature, right? Where ultimately she's not supposed to feel those things. But of course, we also know that a big theme in Chainsaw Man is that your nature, the circumstances of your birth, do not define you on some Mewtwo type beat. Because we know that Pochita isn't like that. Heck, the fiends that we've seen aren't even like that. Like, there's so many different examples of quote-unquote Ds, or beings that shouldn't have the same emotions as humans have, having the same and if not even more intense emotions. Heck, look at Makima. Let's see. I couldn't comprehend it. Asa, the things you think are terrible acts are nothing in a D's eyes. But see, and once again, that's the idea of the dualistic nature between the two. Just because they are nothing in the eyes that Yoru once used to bear. And obviously, you know, it makes sense with the most defining feature of Yoru and her possession being the big old horseman eyes, the double-ringed eyes. They're nothing. But that doesn't mean they don't mean anything to a D like Yoru. If they didn't, she'd be able to trample over Asa. Asa would be erased. Asa wouldn't be a factor anymore. But she still is here. So, clearly, Asa means something. Even if Yoru doesn't understand what Asa means to her, she means something. And I think that's important. Because at the beginning, Asa didn't mean anything to Yoru. She was nothing but a tool. And in many ways, you could argue that Asa has still been treated as a tool. Heck, not even, 3-4 chapters ago, she was using Asa as a hostage to get Denji's guard off and fight Locust for her and all that stuff. But even still, it is clear that Yoru does care. Even if she doesn't understand what care means. I think that's a really interesting way to sort of like bring, like, if this is, once again, assuming this is the conclusion, presumably of like the overall narrative, but especially the fight, it is an interesting point to sort of possibly finish Yoru's development, right? Depending on how much longer we have. Because a big question that Denji had been going through, but even Yoru, and technically also throughout the narrative, is the idea of which side do you choose? Do you choose the nature that you were born as, for Denji's case, a human, and then the D's on the other end, and then vice versa? Or do you not choose either at all? It seems that Yoru has found a balance in the middle, where she understands her nature as a D, fundamentally. She's got a better respect and understanding for it throughout the narrative. But even still, she has been tainted, in a way, by humanity. She is no longer the D she once was. She is something more. Whether that's more good or more bad is debatable, but something more. And I think that's ultimately, continue to look for the symbolism here. I think the reason we're seeing two birds fly together is because that's what Asa and Yoru have done. They have reached heights that neither could have reached on their own, even if they do not fully understand each other as two separate living beings ever will. But ultimately, in being together, they have rose higher. And specifically, going deep into the symbolism here, and just, you maybe say, Professor, you're going too deep into it, but I think I'm seeing a vision here. Note how the doors of the underworld are on top, the human world's at the bottom, where the birds, flying high enough above the human earth, flying high enough above humanity, it being beneath the underworld, aka not being consumed by the darkness and despair and evil up there. They both birds, Asa and Yoru, fly together evenly. I like that. Once again, I do like the symbolism here. This is working. Let's see. Oh, well, speaking of, let's see. If that bird, too, had been able to fly, thinking only happy thoughts. Think of the possibility. And I guess you could definitely argue, like, considering the peril here. I'm assuming why... Oh, wait. I thought he was going to do, like, brain surgery. Nope, he's about to bite. But, assuming we're continuing with the peril here, the idea that Yoru thinks she may have been able to manifest herself in the world differently if she hadn't been bonded to that human, or the emotion of guilt, right? Because obviously, clearly in Chainsaw Man specifically, but also could be our real world. We know that many birds are quite intelligent. Many other things are intelligent, just not the same level of intelligence as the smartest human. But that guilt is ultimately what bound Yoru. to humanity all the way at the start, and as it has bound her all the way to the end. It is an emotion that is purely living, purely non-D, that she does not fully understand, but clearly she is bound by it. But Denji's here, and he like he's hearing Yoru talk, but I doubt he hears anything about Asa or anything coming back. So I guess now he's gonna go for it. Nibble out the Yoru part. I mean, maybe let's see. Denji? Well, okay. I get him not one. And that's the thing, right? The idea of, like, he still wants to save Asa. But I guess that is well, to be fair, I don't blame if he didn't want to get anyone else. Especially if we are going with the idea that Lil D was the dove, and now Lil D is back on for the world, right? Then technically this does make sense as a move. He probably didn't want to risk, especially considering, like, you can see how much, like, literally, where is it? There's a good panel. Look at how much of her own blood that Yoru was laying in. Presumably she did not have that much time unless given some juice. So I get Denji's immediate, like, oh, even if he wants to do, like, the whole brain surgery, like, he buries into Asa's head, or your Asa's head, and manages to dig out a piece of it. Like, she still needs to be in some sort of solid physical form, so he offers up his own blood. Very interesting. Is this I think he's been drained before, but I think this is the first time Denji's like, this is gonna be completely wrong. Watch him and be like, well, if you actually reread, that's bad. But this may be the first time Denji's, like, offered himself as the source of someone else's life, in terms of, like, the literal sense of giving his blood to somebody else. It may have been taken from him before. He may have lost a bunch of it, but him giving this blood to Yoru, or specifically giving this blood to Yoru, even knowing that it'll bring res Yoru back and not just Asa, goes to show how ultimately selfless and caring Denji still is at the core of it all. He doesn't like Asa, he doesn't like Yoru and her plans for the world, but ultimately he knows she is intrinsically tied to Asa, and thus will do anything to keep both alive. But let's see. Oop. Yep. So she gets slurping. Yep, she devours it. Oh, and Denji. Well, to be fair, the poor guy, he probably doesn't have the most stable of footing, because he doesn't even have feet right now. So yeah, you may want to do, like, a lawful clone exchange type beat. You got some of her juice, or no, you gave her some of your juice. Maybe you need to get some of her juice, because Denji, you need a res, bro. Though you don't have a straw, so it's probably gonna be very difficult to drink that stuff up. But gets a lapping, bro. You gotta make it work. Let's see. Oh. Well, I mean, yeah. This is technically the most logical next step. Why would she not up and on him? Are you like? I suppose, what did I really expect? But to be fair, though, she was holding back. She didn't just immediately. So this is already a difference, right? Are you dumber than a chicken? Whoa. What chickens do? What do chicken do to get fried like this? I mean, chicken is delicious, but, like, dumber than the chicken. The chicken's pretty well. They're the smartest, but still, why you gotta do a chicken like that? But interesting. She's sweating, seemingly possibly even crying. She looks very confused as she ups it on him. She's not gonna do it. She's like, okay. Once again, because this is clearly Yoru, and she's still, because of the whole idea, like, she still doesn't really get it, right? She's feeling things she doesn't understand. It's kind of like, ironically, I know it's crazy considering Yoru is, like, the living ancient embodiment of war that's existed ever since wars existed, but, like, Yoru's kind of like a child who doesn't really get what they're feeling, right? Like, you can explain emotions to a child, and sometimes, depending on the child's aptitude and intelligence, like, they'll actually get what you were talking about. But a lot of times, if you ever try to explain, like, what being sad is, what being happy is, what being, like, confused, like, even legitimately, if you try to explain what confusion is, sometimes kids look at you and just, like, because sometimes they don't get it, even if they are feeling it. Like, a confused child will look at you confused after you explain confusion and still not get what you're talking about. And Yoru is pretty much like that. She's lost in this place between what she once was and what she's become, or what she's becoming, essentially more human. So she doesn't understand these humans. She doesn't understand Denji. She doesn't understand Asa. She doesn't get it. She feels all these emotions that they feel. From love, to despair, to guilt, to hatred, to anger, even connection. But she doesn't understand what it means. What's it? Why did you feed me blood, Denji? Denji's laid out like, hey man, this brain surgery ain't gonna perform itself. Couldn't have you perishing. What's it? Did you want to get turned into a weapon? Or do you want to screw up the world together? Interesting. But see, look at that option there, right? Even after the entire chaotic battle that we just went through, even after the complications, the ups and downs of it all, she's asking him these questions. She's beating him technically, right? She's giving him the choice though to become a weapon or to ruin the world together. She wants that connection. She wants that bond. Once again, it's that complicated mix of like how much of this is Asa's particular emotions for Denji, how much of this is any sort of like weird, like out there roundabout way of Yoru's own genuine interest in Chainsaw Man, like just in terms of his strength and the humanity she's been infected with. She genuinely, she doesn't know what she is anymore. She doesn't get it. And to be fair, that is a very real thing. Many people, heck, even myself included, don't always fully understand what I'm feeling or how I'm feeling. So I don't blame Yoru, you know, what, how long has part 2 been, like, in universe? Like, maybe like a few months? I don't blame her for struggling with who or what she is at this point. Let's see. Denji, what's the word? I, suddenly remembered something. What do you mean by that? I thought you were gonna... You said you'd, get freaky with me. Let me just keep reading. Even, me too, Yoru, me too. You promised you'd get freaky with me if I ate some dangerous D. And I'm pretty sure I ate that dangerous D. Didn't I? But like, did you throw her up? Like it was presumably talking about Lil D. But like, did you throw her up? I don't know. Well, but now I'm more confused. But let me see. Let me keep going. Oh, let's get the job. Oh. What is that? Did she? Well, did she redirect the bang or something? She had the bang up at him. She leans down on him. There does seem to be something that goes off. There's a building collapsing. But you know what though? You know what? Call it copium. They're gonna be like, oh no, here it comes. That's what the FUJIMOTO copium. Hey, hold on. Let me put on my little chef's hat. I don't have a chef's hat. What is that? Like put on my little chef's hat. You know how high it is on my head because it's a chef's hat. And let me put where are they at? Where are you? I literally almost stepped on you earlier. There we go. I'm here. Oh, almost dropped the sword. Woo! Almost dropped the sword. That would be bad. Oh, almost dropped the sword. But I put on my little chef's hat. Let me put on my little chef glasses, and let me rub my hands together as I try to cook. All right. So I can see it. I can see it now. I can see the character regression allegations. But I think we got just as I'm like, you really can't take. Well, you can, yet you can't take everything in this chapter about what Yoru's saying about like her emotions and how she feels and whether or not she thinks people are like actually dumb and stupid. Or you could like take the most. You can't. Like you gotta interpret around. And I think I'm going to do a little bit of interpolating around Denji's thing here. He says the only reason he saved her is last minute. He remembered that, oh yeah, if he did what she wanted, she'd give it up. And like that's not let's say. But I think we gotta remember the context of what she gives this answer. She specifically asks, did you want to get turned into a weapon, or do you want to screw up the world together? What is Denji's response to this binary, or not? If not binary, because binary is like a yes or no. What is his response to these two choices? A promise, a bond, a million freaky, but a bond. Of course, not a screw up the world together bond, which is what Yoru offers, or even a master servant bond, which is also what Yoru's offers. An equal, right? Yoru did say she let him crack, where he'd get cracked if he did what she wanted. He did what she wanted. Ultimately, that promise between two people is still very human. Obviously, we know that these do operate on contracts and stuff like that, and like, you know, oh well, maybe you were getting in trouble for breaking your contract, this and that. But very specifically, I think the idea that Denji went for, and especially in this scenario in particular, right? The boy has one arm, no legs, his head chainsaw is broken, and he currently doesn't have a drop of juice in sight. So what does he do to essentially, if not flat out de-escalate the situation, just to put a solid into it? He reminds her of that promise. Is it the most like clear and concise or mature way he could have like ended this, or at least try to de-escalate? Not necessarily, but I think the importance of like the balance of character development versus the character still the core same character is what's at work here, right? Where I'd say Denji defusing the situation in this way by bringing up this very human connection, especially to Yoru, who's currently having a conflict of humanity, essentially. Like, I am a D, and I'm feeling all these things I don't really understand. To essentially throw her for another loop on top of a loop by bringing up something that she promised. Denji is kind of flexing his emotional intelligence, his understanding of people that he's gained over and over and over again to do something like this. And on top of that, very specifically, it's true to Denji as the individual, right? Like, that it's true to who Denji is. Because if Denji, like, it's always the question, right? For a character that develops, should you still be able to recognize the core character? And I think you should. So Denji's still being focused on, you know, the physical, the carnal, the more base, not any sort of, like, elevated desire. I think it works because it still reminds us and essentially tells us, yeah, the character of Denji is still the character of Denji, but at the same time, it also gives us this clear-cut idea of, hey, ultimately, Denji has still changed, he has still developed, he has still become something greater, but he's still Denji. He's still Denji. Now you may say I'm huffing straight copium, and I may be, but still, I want to interpret it as that. Because ultimately, I think if Denji had like a more eloquent or masterful way to decipher the situation, it would feel a little bit weird. It'd be a little bit off, it'd be a little bit strange. So I'm fine with him doing it like this. And specifically, it seemed like it worked. Obviously, I don't think we're going to open up next chapter and she's going to be taking one of his little meat tubes and going crazy with it. But at the same time, I think considering she ends the chapter as she started, laughing, right? That's a good parallel too here. The chapter ends with and ends with she's accepted what she is. She may not understand what she is, but she's accepted it. She accepted that she's the hybrid. Not just in the literal, like, biological sense, but like Denji, a hybrid between two species. Something different, if intertwined with both. And I think that works. But, of course, call me Epic Copium. In fact, if you made it all the way to this video, please leave premium huffage. Premium, not just quality. Premium huffage in the comment section down below. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that leaks up notifications so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, you're going to have a Patron below. You support me for as low as $1 a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the live reactions for the series I have to review, ad reactions of all my videos, early ad-free access to all my videos, early ad-free access to all my videos, not just for the main channel, but the second channel that got the reaction link in the description down below, and also in the card in the upper right hand side. And on top of that, I do have the fact that if you are a Patron member, you get your name listed at the end of every single video. If you're a $3 patron or $3 member or higher, your name listed and read aloud at the end of every single video. On top of that, I do a link to my Twitch in the description down below. We stream every Friday at 8 p.m. ES Hizzle, so feel free to roll through. Over that guy, the controller, we have a great time. We yap about literally anything and everything, and probably gonna be yapping about this chapter. I don't know. I've got to think about it some more. But on top of that, I do a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below. Where you drop 5 minutes to a short video or 20 minutes to a long video, or any at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. And I want to thank you so much for watching once again, and hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy the Pencil, writing off.
I'd like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zera, J2MA, Buddha Ura, Yuki Ally, Grim, Ollie, The Boy, Corey Watson, Damon Brown, Dino, Hector Gonzalez, Tim Thomas, Kaving, RXN, Logan Guzman, Dead Meme, Keon Stewart, Donovan McIntosh, Hamza Idrisi, BNA DNA, Edwin Indignoba, Straw, Atenzi Shear, Antivius Mitchell, Superflame Zero, Weary Exile, Window Life, Alex Kenny, Todd, The Practical One, Landon Clapwick, Heath Nelson, CAET, Funny Dude, Jagoda, Plant Crone, Striker Man, Brandon Payne, Black Sage, Multi-Batman Superman, Ramondo Furen, Zalims, Enzo, Union I Metatron, Sheesh King, Joe Bean, Aswin Hey Presetia, Sleepin' John, JMD KD, The Young Family, Pastel Pandora, Sino King, NMA, Karina Hernandez, Mo City King, DKG, Andrine Bonnet, John Malcolm, Akolare Babatunde, ASD 1234, Jesse Clapp, and CCC. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our line art tier patrons: A+A, Dread Zoen, Karina Hernandez, Kevin Encarnacion, Lil Kodo, Midnight Lord 21, and Sean. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our Inc. tier members: King RTX, Shrimpo the 4th Shrimp 06, and Zom. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our digital art tier members: Jay Warrior, AZ Void, and Val Denison. Then I'd like to give a final thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Walkie Munoz, and A Ernesto902 at gmail.com.